Hello, and welcome to today's training on how to become a highly efficient business owner so you can eliminate chronic stress, get more shit done, and just enjoy every part of life. And it's a unique and counterintuitive three-step approach to eliminate overthinking and simplify your entire entrepreneurial journey to help you to get to stress-free success in your business and beyond. And I'm going to break it down for you in today's presentation. Here are the three steps. Phase one, we need a system to streamline operational chaos and max out efficiency so you can get all the quick financial and confidence boosting wins that I can guarantee are already there waiting to be found and require no extra effort. Phase two, we need to stabilize and ground the biggest variable in your business, you. So you can go from frantic firefighter to strategically and calmly creating more capacity, a bigger plate without additional overwhelm or burnout. And phase three, we need to shift. We need specific techniques to reset the biggest cause of chronic stress, your overthinking. And we want to turn it back into your biggest talent and superpower that effortlessly unlocks your next level of growth, genius level creativity and problem solving, and bigger thinking without limits. And each phase has the potential to reclaim hours in your week and add zeros to your bottom line without stressing yourself out or running yourself into the ground. All you need is one penny drop moment that can change the way that you do things and make you happy that you watch this presentation. No one else is teaching this. And if you can understand this three-step process, stress-free success in your business and life is well within reach. And it was using this three-step system that I was able to completely transform my coaching business, triple my income, 3x my productivity, eliminated stress, and upgraded my whole outlook on life within the first month, and growing from strength to strength since. When you understand where you've been going wrong and how simple it is to correct it, you're going to instantly see how simple and achievable stress-free success in business can be. And it'll take you from being stressed out, stuck, and super serious, like this guy here, to unburdened, light as a feather, fast to act, and able to bounce back from setbacks quicker than ever. And that's the dream outcome here, right? Stress free, multiple six figure success that enables you to enjoy life as well. But even deeper than that, what you really want is to feel in control. You want the freedom to do what you want, when you want. You might have even created a business and life to feel more in control. But by doing so, you may have added more and more things that you have to constantly tweak and monitor. And it just has you being pulled in different directions, which makes you even busier, just trying to keep all the plates spinning, and also even more stressed out. Now, you can hit your income goals, you can do it in a way that you want, and you can do it without sacrificing your mental well-being if you follow along with what we're going to cover today. And my results aren't typical. Your results will vary from mine. But it hasn't just worked for me. This is a system that's been proven to work across a whole bunch of different businesses, coaches, consultants, self-employed, solopreneurs, freelancers, founders, and experts across multiple industries. Like Orlando, he increased his revenue, created a better work life balance, created leads, but more importantly, he was able to deliver projects on time, which gave him a greater sense of feeling in more control of his day. Then there was also Matt, who wound down a successful web development business to start his own coaching business, which he felt just gave him a greater sense of purpose and passion. And it also enabled him to take off a day midweek to spend with his growing family, and he hasn't looked back since. And it worked for them across multiple different industries. Now, and I really think it can help you as well. And it's because it's a proven system that strips away all of the dead weight. It works with your preferences. It allows for what's most important to you, and it complements your life. Now, if you're on this training right now, chances are that you want to deliver high quality results. You want to achieve and earn more while working less. You want to take more decisive and strategic action. You want more meaning in your work. You want to be reliable without overcommitting yourself. And you want to have a sense of independence, but without isolating. And you want to feel inspired every day and have reasonably stress free success, which isn't asking too much by any means. But you keep getting bogged down by all of this. Over tweaking emails, hoarding tasks, stressed over the what ifs, frozen by fear of wrong steps, feeling physically worn out, drained from stress rather than actually doing things, and sometimes quick to frustration as well. And there's also the missed deadlines, struggles with time management, opportunity avoidance, fear of failure, which usually has us doom scrolling. And it's your overthinking and chronic stress that pulls you in so many different directions that you don't even know which way is up and anymore. And it makes it really hard to tell the difference between what is important and what is trivial. And your business starts to feel like you're in a maze. Sometimes the sun is out and it feels like an adventure and you're confident you're moving in the right direction. And then there's other times where you're living in a constant state of fear, scared shitless about what's lurking around the next corner. So, what are we going to learn today? Today, you're going to learn how to break free from the overthinking cycle, earn what you're worth, eliminate stress triggers, how to streamline your workday, and how to actually enjoy your business and life again, all without working longer hours or adding to your to do list, without needing to reinvent the wheel or overcomplicate things, without sacrificing fun, family, or your mental well being, without years of therapy or self help books, without constantly needing to be more productive, without 10 times more work or customers, and without needing to be lucky. So, who am I? I'm Aaron, and I specialize in helping business owners like you to transform their businesses and lives into something that they thrive in and they look forward to rather than feeling trapped in and tolerating. Ever since 2018, when I took the leap to start working for myself, I've dedicated my career to mastering the art of high performance and stress free success. So why listen to me? I mean, because I've not only studied this path, but I've walked it myself and I've turned the insights that I've gained from my experience and countless other clients' experience into practical strategies for you to apply immediately. So let me share a piece of my story with you. A few years ago, I was probably exactly where you might find yourself today: overwhelmed, overworked, and achieving only a fraction of what I knew I could. I was caught in a cycle of overthinking every decision and second guessing every move. And it felt like no matter how hard I worked, I was running in place. I created a graph with this next part, see if you can visually resonate with this. So most days I'd wake up with a vision so clear I could almost feel it. But as the day unfolded, that clarity soon became clouded by a relentless torrent of what ifs, as feelings of dread and overwhelm started to build, which of course kept me up the previous night, making a decent night's sleep almost impossible. Further fueled by the enormous to do list I knew I had waiting for me that never seemed to get any shorter, no matter how many things I ticked off it, which made telling the difference between needle mover and novelty almost impossible. And while energy levels started high, doing every task on the list just to cover all my bases quickly became exhausting as I started to become more busy than productive, even though my income seemed to stay the same as I started to get busier and busier. And while quality of work was the most important thing for me, even that declined over time, just because I found it hard to say no and the immense pressure that I was putting myself under. And I prided myself on being reliable, but even that started to become questionable, which felt like a punch in the guts. From there on, nothing was trending in the right direction. Even small things started to trigger stress, and then it all just started to pile on top of me. None of these things sound like a big deal on their own, but all of them combined starts to create some really big problems. Over time, you just start to feel like you're falling short of your own expectations as you feel less and less satisfied. Personal time flatlines and becomes a distant memory if it hasn't already. Your relationships start to take a turn for the worse because even when you're there, you're not really there. And then the health problems can start to creep in as well. Realizing that I'd been stuck in this cycle for longer than I'd like to admit was a wake up call, and it helped me to develop these techniques that I now teach, which transformed not only my business, but my entire approach to life. And it was working with business owners across all sorts of industries. I started to notice a pattern. The most talented and capable individuals often struggle the most with overthinking and chronic stress. Like me, they were their own biggest roadblock. Recognizing this in my clients and myself was a big penny drop moment. It led me to dive deeper into understanding why the brightest minds often hold themselves back from their true potential. It's been years of research, coaching, and personal experimentation to develop this system, and today I leap out of bed, excited for what the day will bring and ready to face its challenges. I seize opportunities I would have shied away from before. I've been able to eliminate stress, and I've built my dream business, managing it from anywhere in the world where I can enjoy life fully. Less seriousness, more fun. I've learned to enjoy every moment. I've also tripled my productivity, working with clients who inspire me, boosted my confidence, balancing work and play, and I've turned my overthinking back into a superpower. Now, the reality is that there's an easy way or a hard way. And for those of you on this training, ideally want the same results as I've been able to achieve, you've got a choice. You can either go the hard way, try and fix your own thinking with your own thinking, read all the books, suffer through all of the trial and error, go through all of the guesswork, get stuck in the maze a bit longer, or you can go the easy way. The easy way is obviously sticking with me on today's training while I reveal everything to you about how this works. And then maybe we can even continue working together moving forward into the future. So, who's going to love today's training? If you've got 99 problems, but overthinking and chronic stress are basically all of them, if you feel imprisoned by your to do list, if you're a business owner at a crossroads ready to scale beyond just getting by, if you want to achieve big without sacrificing your mental well being, if you're all too familiar with the drain of perfectionism and imposter syndrome, if you're desperate for a mindset makeover, if you want practical solutions instead of more just quick fixes, if you've had enough of constantly getting stuck in research phase, you want your work to have more meaning without the crushing pressure, or if you're sick of achieving only a fraction of what you know that you're capable of, today's training is for you. Now, on the other hand, who might want to skip today's training? If you can't stand Australian accents, soz, not soz. If you're okay with settling, putting up with, or tolerating the status quo, those who are looking for overnight success, those who want to fight for their limitations tooth and nail, people who shy away from self reflection, those seeking only tactical business hacks, individuals not ready to invest in themselves, practical tip stockpilers who know lots but put little into action, and those who would prefer familiar suffering to uncertain positive change. The biggest obstacle for overthinkers is I already know that. Just consider for a moment if you're stuck, stalled, or struggling, that there may still be something new for you to learn. So here's what we're going to cover. Part one, the 7 misconceptions that separate effortless entrepreneurs from overthinkers who stall. Part two, the unseen indicator of multiple six-figure success, how it transforms work and well-being for better or worse. And part three, halting the domino effect with a cognitive reset, rewiring your response to stress for clearer choices before it derails your decisions. Part one, unveiling the hidden brakes on your business engine, the 7 misconceptions that separate effortless entrepreneurs from overthinkers who stall. There was a study done by the University of Michigan that found that overthinking leads people to focus on negative memories of the past, depressing explanations of the present, and hopelessness about their future, aka creating a lot of chronic stress. And as a result, overthinkers generate poor solutions to their problems and feel unable to implement solutions. Something happens to turn your superpowers of analysis, research, out of the box thinking, pattern recognition, and problem solving, and it turns them against you. And we're going to uncover exactly what that is in today's training. And it all starts with the big 7 misconceptions that have overthinkers stall. Number one, more effort equals more success. Picture yourself endlessly spinning on a hamster wheel, not just going through the motions, but feeling the constant pressure to excel with each turn of the wheel. That's the trap of believing more effort equals more success. We've all been there thinking that if we just work that little bit harder, put in more hours, we'll get ahead. But research and our experience shows that that's just not the case. Does this look familiar? Hours spent in frenzy, from emails to minute details, believing that if you stop, everything falls apart. Yet, despite the hustle, the real progress, like business growth, remains just out of reach. It's a path that promises progress, but it leads to burnout. Now, picture this: an archer with just one arrow, one shot, making it count. And because of that intense focus, it's as though the target is only a few feet in front of you. That's the power of focused effort, zeroing in on what truly moves the needle. Not more hours, but smart, targeted actions that actually propel you forward. Effort can become irrelevant when you think differently about what's really important and how much time, effort, and energy those tasks deserve. And you might be thinking, I've heard this before and it's not that easy. And I hear you. But if other people have figured it out and achieved what you want, there's no reason why you can't do it as well. What if a small shift could unlock the growth that you've been chasing? Like John, a client who refocused on key tasks and increased his output by 30% within his first month. That's the kind of change that can stop spreading yourself so thin and start maximizing your efforts. Let's simplify, not amplify your workload. Your energy is finite. Use it where it counts most. Big misconception number two, emotion has no place in business. Now, you've probably been told to keep business emotions out of business, to aim for what seems like logical purity. But have you ever noticed that bottling emotions or compartmentalizing can lead to feeling disconnected, stressed, or even keeps you stuck in decision paralysis? In fact, it's emotion that makes the most effective leaders so engaging. Now, consider this. Emotions aren't chaos to be feared, but signals to be understood. Imagine turning moments of doubt into powerful pivots for your business. I'm a big believer in data driven decision making, but just because we might not act on emotion doesn't mean we want to bottle them up. Navigating emotional highs and lows in business is like steering a boat through a storm. It's challenging, but mastering this skill can lead to clearer skies, smoother sailing, and a newfound sense of control and direction. But only once you learn how to ride out the storm rather than going around it. Big misconception number three: perfectionism is non negotiable. Have you ever felt like you need to get everything done just right? Believing that everything has to be flawless before it can see the light of day. Deep down, that is the fear of judgment and criticism. And it keeps you stuck in a cycle of endless revision because you've tied your value to the quality of your work. And that is a big problem. It's a trap, even. Picture Gordon Ramsay, endlessly tasting and tweaking a dish, never satisfied enough to let it leave the kitchen. Striving for the perfect dish sounds commendable, but what if it means guests never get to experience any meal at all? And even worse, the chef never reaches their full potential. Let's break down the real cost here. While aiming for perfection, critical time is lost, opportunities are missed, and chronic stress levels go through the roof. Not to mention, most people can't appreciate or even comprehend your standards of quality. The pursuit of perfect can actually hinder success rather than enhance it. And you can make the best pizza in the world, but if someone prefers pasta, has already eaten, has no taste, or can only eat three-quarters of it, your effort and energy for perfection go unnoticed and unappreciated. Now, this can be a particularly hard misconception to let go of, but let me be clear: I'm not saying don't have high standards. It's all about leverage, always making sure that you get 5 to 10 times a return on the effort that you're putting into a task. Big misconception number four: innovation requires complexity and constant new ideas. Trying to stand out, you might think layering complexity into your project shows off your skills, capability, and thoroughness. It feels like you're adding more value. But this often leads you down a tangled path where the true impact of your work gets lost in a maze of unnecessary detail and analysis paralysis. Think of the most successful innovations out there. They're not always new, but are existing concepts with impactful refinements that have kept their product fresh and competitive. Or the Swiss Army knife, a marvel of versatility. But if you've ever tried using one to peel a potato while camping, you know it's not particularly good at any one thing. On the other hand, you've got a chef's knife, which is designed to excel in the kitchen. Both are valuable, but the chef's knife is a master of its craft, cutting through the noise with precision. Innovation doesn't require constant reinvention or complicated strategies. It's about stripping back to the essentials and refining what already works. Big misconception number five: success has to be a solo journey. The term lone wolf comes from wild wolves who leave the pack that they were born into to explore new territories, to embrace the risks of solitude for potentially greater rewards. Like many entrepreneurs striking out on their own, driven by a vision of independence and groundbreaking achievements, this journey, while embarked upon alone, is a natural step towards discovering unique opportunities. However, the lone wolf faces daunting challenges solo, which can limit its reach and survival. In business, working alone can isolate you, narrowing your perspectives and amplifying challenges. It's important to remember that solitude can foster growth, but collaboration amplifies it. If the journey feels lonely, it's because you believe it should or needs to be. While lone wolves might start their journey solo in search of new opportunities and territories, their ultimate goal often mirrors their innate instinct to form new packs. Similarly, in business, stepping out alone evolves into building a thriving team, community, or working with people who share your vision and multiplies your efforts, turning your solo strides into a collective sprint towards greater success. Acknowledging these misconceptions is just the tip of the iceberg. Beyond this realization lies a structured path to not just overcome, but to harness your overthinking as a strategic advantage. Today's insights are the foundation, with a journey ahead tailored to redefine what success looks like for you without overwhelm. Misconception number six: failure is not an option. Like with all of these misconceptions, it's time to redefine the game on your terms. Imagine your business challenges like practicing free throws when no one's watching. Each miss is a private lesson preparing you for the next big game. In business, as in sports, the practice court is where you build your skills without the pressure of an audience watching. Learning from the greats. Even Michael Jordan had off days in major games, yet each was a stepping stone to greatness. Every big game, every public presentation, and every launch is still practice for your next move. The real game is always the next one, and every moment is preparing you for it. Think of your entrepreneurial journey as a series of plays in the ongoing championship of your career. Each failure is a moment to regroup and strategize, not as a single to leave the court. With every play, you're crafting a winning strategy for the big game, which is always your next move. And with each step, you become more and more capable of snatching back impending failure to turn back into a win. Big misconception number 7: more information always leads to better decisions. Have you ever felt that the more you know, the better you control the outcome? It's a common belief rooted in our fear of uncertainty. We pile up information thinking it shields us from making mistakes. But here's the catch: too much information can lead to analysis paralysis. Like a computer with too many programs open, our decision making process jams. We start overthinking, fearing the wrong choice more than no choice at all. System crash or decision? Which will happen first? Can anyone relate to this pick, by the way? Yeah, oh, that used to be me on a good day. True wisdom isn't about accumulating data, it's about distilling it. Identifying what's truly essential allows us to cut through the noise, make decisions faster, and move forward with confidence. Then there's the bonus big misconception that has overthinkers stalling. Number 8: your value comes from all of the previous misconceptions. This misconception is the linchpin. It makes all the others more powerful and harder to let go of. You believe that your value comes from the previous 7 misconceptions, and without them, you don't have much to offer, which means what others think has a powerful hold over you, one that can be very hard to escape from, let go of, or create positive change. Now, you might even be noticing some resistance to letting these misconceptions go. And there's a reason for this. Another study done by Stanford University helps us understand why. Every day, our minds are flooded with a constant stream of thoughts ranging from daily tasks to the big questions about life and the world around us. Now, the average person has approximately 12 to 60,000 thoughts per day. People who tend to overthink probably closer to the 60,000 mark, 80% of which are negative. This is how we limit ourselves, stay safe, minimize change. 95% of which are repeated. This is how we reinforce who we are and how we see the world. And this is how those misconceptions can become part of your identity. At the end of the day, the only question that matters is, are these misconceptions helping you get what you want, or are they holding you back? So, which of these misconceptions have you found yourself nodding along to most? Take a moment to reflect on this. Is it the belief that the harder that you work equals more success? Or perhaps failure isn't optional? Recognizing this is the first step towards a transformative shift and unstoppable growth. Part 2: the unseen indicator of multiple 6-figure success, how it transforms work and well being for better or worse. Now, what is the biggest indicator of success? You might be thinking it's talent or intelligence, but there are plenty of incredibly talented and intelligent people out there who just don't do anything. People often talk about them like, oh, they're so smart and talented, but dot, dot, dot. You might also be thinking that it's taking action, but we all know our fair share of busy fools who are always busy and yet only achieve a fraction of their potential and run themselves into the ground with nothing to show for it. So, what is it? Now, you might have strong feelings about Andrew Tate one way or another, but he believes the biggest indicator of success is how you respond to stress. And I'd agree, because stress isn't about what happens to you, it's what you make things mean. We're going to dive deep into this later because it determines how you respond and, more importantly, your results. I've seen the impact that stress has on every entrepreneur I've ever worked with firsthand. Stress plus intelligence equals the IQ being cut in half. Stress plus action leads to burnout and them constantly feeling like they need to catch up. Stress plus sales equals plenty of no's. Stress plus emails and proposals equals hours spent trying to craft the perfect response, which often ends up in them being ghosted anyway. Stress plus profits often leads to them shrinking. Stress plus opportunity often leads to them shying away and playing small and safe. Stress plus failure equals delays and then bouncing back and often leads into a downward spiral. Your stress becomes the make or break factor for success because stress is an inevitable part of success, or how you deal with stress. But that doesn't mean that chronic stress is. And stress is what triggers your overthinking as well. Now, being stuck, struggling, stalling, or burning out can be excruciating. For some people, it's that stress that becomes the catalyst that catapults them to their next level. Unfortunately, that same stress has a very different effect when you overthink it. Instead of being a catapult, it becomes a trap of self sabotage. So let's flush out the root cause of stress. Now, overthinking has nothing to do with thinking. It's driven by what you make events and circumstances mean, which creates a feeling of discomfort, fear, anxiety, or dread. So if we look at this diagram here, first we have people who seem to keep their cool no matter what. You might even know a few of these people or admire them or just hate them a little bit. They encounter stress, but then they just keep on marching on. They push through it. For everyone else, there's an event that happens, an unhappy customer, negative feedback, or an unexpected tax bill, something like that. And it puts us into a stress response. It knocks our thoughts and feelings out of sync, our head and our heart out of sync, and we fall into familiar patterns, which are more likely to keep us in place or sabotage us than move us forward. And sometimes, in extreme circumstances, there's an event that really rocks you. It's too much, and you just need to shut down, call it a day, and regroup. Then there's the everyday events that you encounter that bring up discomfort, fear, worry, and a general unease, aka stress. It triggers your overthinking, and you start to try to get back into control, including the things that are outside of your control, all of the what ifs, in an attempt to make this uncomfortable feeling stop. Overthinking is your stress response. And then, in an attempt to try and control all of the things that are outside of our control, we then go into coping mechanisms like perfectionism. We're trying to make it as perfect as possible to avoid judgment and criticism. Or we go into procrastination, where we put off the task for as long as possible so we can put off the judgment and criticism. Or again, trying to avoid the judgment and criticism, we try to get as busy as we can, hoping that we're going to get lucky, or just to avoid being seen as lazy, which can then have an impact on each other as well. So perfectionism can turn into procrastination and busyness, and vice versa, which can then turn into other coping mechanisms as well. In an attempt to try and make things perfect, we can go into imposter syndrome. We can become very indecisive, or we can turn into victimhood, which again can then all turn into each other as well, which can then turn into catastrophizing, people pleasing, but all inevitably turn into burnout. The more burnout you are, the more easily triggered you become more often and over things that normally just wouldn't even matter, until you become like an exposed nerve that's set off by a gentle breeze. The way you manage stress directly affects your emotional resilience, which is your capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and adapt in the face of stressful situations. Your resilience takes a hit every time you go around this cycle, each like a piece of straw. And that poor camel's back looks like it could break at any moment. It might look like the event is the root cause of stress, but it's not. Remember the biggest misconceptions that keep overthinkers stalling? They become these rigid rules that convince you there's only one way to win by narrowing your focus, limiting your ability to see the full range of options and solutions available to you, leading you to overthinking, indecision, and even more stress. If we look at these one by one, more effort equals more success. So you have to put in 150% effort in all the time into everything, even when it doesn't add extra value. Number two, emotions have no place in business. So you bury them deep down and become disconnected from yourself and more easily triggered because you're consistently topping yourself up. Three, perfectionism is non negotiable. So everything takes 3 times longer, and you might be the only one who can notice the difference. Number four, innovation requires complexity and constant new ideas. So you keep starting new things but never finish them. Number five, success is a solo journey. So you isolate yourself because no one could possibly understand and you wouldn't want to burden them with it. So you stay stuck in the mud like a car needing a tow in the middle of nowhere. Number six, failure is not an option. So you do everything you can to avoid it, which only brings you closer to it as it's a necessary part of iteration and success. Or you spend your life playing smaller than you know you can. Number seven, more information always leads to better decisions. So you stay stuck in information gathering mode and never actually do anything. Number eight, you believe your value comes from being a hard worker, from being stoic, from being perfect, from constantly innovating, being able to do it on your own, never failing, and being the best researcher out there. So there's part of you that resists change because it means you no longer have value, it becomes part of who you are. So it's almost impossible to change while you latch onto it. All of these misconceptions are incredibly limiting, which backs you into a corner and sends stress levels through the roof, making it harder for you to perform at your best. And is it any wonder why it's so hard to reach stress-free success when you get sucked into overthinking every time the pressure is on? It's also the reason you don't take anywhere near as much action as you know you could. No matter how practical the advice, how much it makes sense, or how much you know you should do it. But the worst part? The real problem with overthinking is that you're chronically stressed. So, what do? We find ways to numb, to relieve the stress. But the trouble with that is that you don't just stop feeling stress, you stop feeling everything. Suddenly, life becomes full of obligations rather than choices, shoulds rather than wants, feeling disconnected even when you're surrounded by people. Everything becomes so serious instead of fun and playful, indifference instead of real joy and fulfillment. Business and life start piling up on you. It might even feel like you're living life in a dark room in your head, tied to a chair, listening to someone commentate your life. When what you really want is to be out on the pitch, experiencing every moment of the game firsthand. And I've known this numb feeling all too well, which is why I get such a kick out of seeing people come out of it and start enjoying life again, like these people. The most important thing here is that your stress response can be controlled and refined. It's not fixed. Knowing you have the power to choose how you respond to stress opens up new possibilities for managing overthinking and enhancing productivity and success. It starts with being more calm and confident, and then grows to less effort with more output, more income, putting systems in place that do all of the heavy lifting for you, work life harmony, and the sky's the limit from there. Then you're in control. You can literally generate as much high quality work and income as you like without it burning you out from battling yourself every step of the way, and you feel satisfied and have plenty of energy left over to go bigger in your work or putting it back into what makes life worth living. Next up, I'm going to share one of my secret weapons to stop stress before it starts so you can 10x progress. Part 3, halting the domino effect with a cognitive reset. Rewiring your response to stress for clearer choices before it derails your decisions. We've seen how it's a mistake to ignore stress, how it limits our success and sends us spiraling into the abyss of overthinking, and how it means missing out on deals, clients, and opportunities. And you can probably see how powerful it is to stop things here and exit the trap before tumbling too far down the rabbit hole. This is good. You can do this with meditation, breath work, journaling, interpretive dance, howling at the moon, whatever floats your boat. This is a safe space. There's no judgment here. And it stops you going through the cycle of beating yourself up because you mostly pay attention to all the things that went wrong. Stress goes up, start making more emotional decisions, focus on the negative outcomes of those decisions, stress goes up, get stuck, struggling, or stalled even more, leading to a downward spiral. But what if you could stop stress before it even happens? What would that do to your resilience and your peace of mind? But also, what would it do for your productivity, your mindset, income, and work-life balance? Stopping the cycle before it even starts is even better. At the source, you eliminate almost all unnecessary stress by stopping this crucial domino from toppling. It not only reduces stress, but it also reduces your sensitivity to being triggered by these events in the first place. No first domino, no domino effect. Now, that first domino and your main source of stress is how you interpret events. Like a car accident where two people experience the same event but have very different interpretations. Both could storm out of the car furious, making out like it's the other person's fault. Same situation, different interpretations. One could even feel grateful to walk away, while the other feels traumatized and fearful. It's these interpretations that determine whether you take big, bold action or retreat into overthinking, busyness, indecisiveness, perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome, victimhood, people pleasing, or catastrophizing, and whether all your time, energy, and potential materialize or withers away into a fraction of what it could. Now, you might be thinking, how do I control how I interpret things? I'm glad you asked. Remember these misconceptions? These create a blueprint for how you see the world and interpret events. And as we've already covered, they can be very rigid and make it seem as though there's only one way to win. There is a reason for this. These misconceptions aren't always created through the eyes of an adult, especially if there's a real emotional charge, like a knot in your stomach or a bee in your bonnet or a deep visceral feeling. It's more likely these misconceptions are connected to how we learn to see the world growing up as a child. If you were super honest with yourself, does it sound rational to put in extra work even when it doesn't necessarily create more value? Is it logical to bottle up emotions that lead to regret or committing to things you can't or don't want to follow through on? Everything has to be perfect all the time, otherwise it has no value. That unnecessary complexity somehow equals sophistication and added value. That going it alone is necessary or shows strength. That playing small and safe is preferable to reaching our true potential. That it's necessary to know everything before doing anything, or that the sum total of your value as a human being lies in any of these things. Do these things sound like the rational interpretations of a mature adult or an emotional child who's trying to protect themselves from something bad happening again? And continuing down the shame spiral we go. Now, if that sounds daunting, scary, or like you're going to have to do therapy for years before you'll be able to push through this, not necessarily. Like the fish that doesn't know it's in water, things can change very quickly once you become aware of the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors surrounding you every day. Now, I'm not dismissing how real the need for these rigid rules, misconceptions might feel at times, but you've got to admit they're pretty damn limiting and a big part of why you're stuck, and probably not all that helpful if you feel the way you do now. And I know it's frustrating because sometimes you're this calm, confident, decisive, clear, capable adult with all of your experience, skills, and knowledge. Next minute, you're pulled back into feelings of doubt, validation seeking, chasing perfection out of fear you'll be judged or criticized, indecisive as fuck. Feel like you need to be constantly doing something and overthinking every angle, feeling overwhelmed, and almost like no matter what you do, things won't change. Kind of like how a little kid might experience things, sometimes. In fact, that's exactly what it is. We all have an inner child, and it's this inner child that creates these misconceptions that have you stalling. Now, that might sound like a weird concept, but just bear with me. Overthinking is under feeling. When you were young, you probably experienced intense feelings of overwhelm, fear, and confusion, and you decided it was safer in your head thinking about what was going on than in your body feeling it. So when the pressure's on, overthinkers try to think their way out to get away from the feeling and discomfort as soon as possible. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. Either way, you're fearful of those intense emotions and you never learn how to process or harness them, and they take over and get the best of you at times. Most overthinkers' biggest fear is those feelings taking over completely and them losing control. So they do everything they can to not feel them at all, which just creates more overthinking. Now, you might be thinking, Aaron, what is all this feelings crap? And I hear you. And I thought exactly the same thing until I understood that when my overthinking was triggered, it was my inner child that was running an absolute muck in my business, procrastinating, chasing perfection, being a busy fool, alternating between victim and imposter, struggling to make decisions, trying to be all things to all people, and burning myself out. I mean, these things sound like the actions of a scared little kid rather than an adult, don't they? All because I was running from the fear and discomfort into my head. If thinking your way out isn't working for you, see if you can suspend those critical thoughts for now and just consider whether there's some truth in this for you as well. Now, I'm going to state the obvious here, but you wouldn't trust a 7-year-old with a loaded gun. But that's exactly what you do by letting the scared inner child dictate how you interpret everyday events. They have access to WMDs, weapons of mass self destruction, aka years of unprocessed feelings from seeing the world through these harsh and rigid misconceptions, and they could go off at any moment. You also wouldn't trust them driving a car, but it's that same 7-year-old that takes over the wheel and jumps in the driver's seat of your business and life at times when the pressure gets too much. Even when you're making progress, it can feel like you're flooring it with the handbrake up. Or when things get really stressful, it can feel like speeding along and that scared little kid suddenly throwing it into reverse to sabotage your efforts, and you find yourself dazed and confused, 3 steps backwards and not sure how it all happened. But you can take back control of how you interpret everyday events by intentionally choosing how you want to see the world and reframing those misconceptions through the eyes of an adult instead of the eyes of a child to break the overthinking cycle and replace it with something more empowering that gives you infinite ways of winning. And you're probably starting to see how these misconceptions have been working in the background, slowing you down, keeping you stuck or draining your energy, and only giving you a false sense of safety and security in return, especially if they're not getting you what you want. Now, if you're stuck, stalled, or fighting against the current, it's because you're choosing protection over progress. It can be hard to admit it, but we create our circumstances, good or bad, by what we do and don't do. If we have a fixed way of seeing the world and thinking, it massively limits what you can create, and it means you end up creating more of your past results, which isn't ideal if those results are a fraction of what you know you can, if they're unfulfilling, or if they're exhausting you. Which is why it's so important to remember that it's not what happens to you, it's what you make it mean. And you can change that meaning anytime you decide. With that said, the sooner you let go of limiting misconceptions, the easier it is to replace them with energizing and effortless alternatives. One quote I want to really sink in: successful people constantly challenge, upgrade, and rewire the way they see the world to get better results. Everyone else is stuck, stalled, or plateauing because they're resisting change and trying to justify why they think the way they do. Changing yourself changes the world. This is the answer. Identify the biggest misconception causing the most damage, holding you back the most, and causing the biggest loss of opportunity for you. Connect the dots between that misconception, your stress, and the behavior that is not getting you what you want. And then reframe that misconception through the eyes of an adult to something that empowers you rather than limits you. You should instantly feel the stress start to melt away, making it easier to see how you can make more income, how you can be in more creative flow, how you can be more passionate about what you do and using less time and energy and give you more capacity for growth. Now, you might be thinking, cool story, bro, but where are the practical steps? And I get it. What we've been doing is breaking down the cement that has made these misconceptions so hard to shake off. Let me ask you two questions. How much more aware are you of the beliefs that you have that are tripping you up? And two, how much less power do they have over you now that you're aware of them? And with these new ways of seeing the world, you will automatically feel differently. When you feel different, you automatically take different actions. But the real question here is whether you're going to stay stuck in a cycle of choosing familiar hells, or are you ready to boldly choose an unfamiliar heaven, even if you're not completely sure what that looks like, knowing and trusting that it'll be an improvement. Because without these rigid rules, stress, sabotaging yourself, all the weight of the world on your shoulders, you start winning, retaining and leveraging more of the right opportunities. Suddenly, stress free success becomes surprisingly achievable. Starting to love what you do and life again isn't a bad added bonus either. You can't afford to keep doing and thinking what you're currently doing and thinking. I've been there, and it either keeps you stuck where you are or drags you down into even darker depths. You might have even been stuck in that pattern for a while now, maybe even longer than you'd like to admit. Maybe you're starting to notice it creeping in into other areas of your life, and it's becoming painfully clear how it's been holding you back. If you've been trying to break free but nothing seems to work, it's time for a change. And I believe I can help you with that, just like I've done for myself and all my clients. If you know it's possible to stop losing opportunities to your overthinking and chronic stress and earn an extra 1 to 10K per month without running yourself into the ground, I mean categorically know it's possible, but you're not doing it right now. Every month that goes by that you don't learn the skills and make the breakthroughs needed to make that happen, you are losing 1 to 10K or more per month. And if you know it's possible to hit multiple six figures stress free while improving your relationships, your health, your social life, your self care as well, then every month that goes by that you don't learn the skills needed to make that happen, then what you're losing every month is far more valuable than that. Like Mariko here, who had an extra 5K in her first 2 weeks working together. She lost 15 kilograms over 3 months. She rekindled her marriage. She rediscovered things that she likes, hobbies. She found passion in her work. She brought her dream cello and she repaired her relationship with her mom. And I want you to be next. There's no reason why you couldn't be. If you're looking back over the last 12 months and you're not where you want to be or not where you thought you'd be, then something's got to change. Now, I want to present you with an opportunity, a shortcut through this mental maze you find yourself stuck in. I'm going to offer you the chance to have a completely free accelerator call with me. Now, you will leave this call with the exact blueprint that has helped me and my clients eliminate overthinking, triple output and income, 10x productivity, and reignite that fire in your belly stress free. We'll also find out exactly what's going wrong in your business, life, mindset, how to fix it, and give you a plan of action to get you to your income goals. And if it feels like a good fit, you might be offered a chance to work with me in my coaching program. But I just want to give you a heads up. I don't work with everyone. I'm very particular about who I work with. So please don't automatically expect to be offered a place in the program. But we can certainly talk about it if that's the direction it goes in. In either event, you won't need your wallet for this call. There's nothing to buy. It all starts with this accelerator call. We'll have a chat and get to know each other. I'll provide you with some value, and you may be offered the chance to work with me further. Taking this call is literally the most important thing you could do right now. So go ahead, book your call now. I've only got a few slots available over the next few days. It's really helpful for me before we jump on a call to understand where you're at, what you've got going on, what you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't, so we can hit the ground running. In fact, it's so important to me that if you don't send that form back, you're gonna have to go ahead and cancel the call and open up that slot for someone else who might be interested. So go ahead, book your call now to secure your spot. I hope you got a bunch of value from today's presentation. I'm about to close this down now, so click the link, book your call, and I look forward to speaking to you.